All right, so get ready, because today we are going to be thinking small, right?
Okay.
Our deep dive today is all about diminutives.
Oh, cool.
I love diminutives, don't you?
Yeah, they're fun.
They're fun, and, you probably use these all the time, these cute little words.
Right.
But have you ever really stopped to think about how they work? Why are we drawn to them? And how do they differ, across different languages?
Yeah, I'm sure there's a lot more to it than we realize.
Exactly. So we've got some fascinating research lined up, and I think you're going to be fascinated too.
Well, I'm excited. Let's dive in.
I'm excited too. So to really understand their power, let's start with just the basics. What is a diminutive?
Yeah, good place to start.
Our sources define diminutives as, well, they're word forms and often suffixes.
Right.
And they signal smallness.
Okay.
But as you see, it goes way beyond just physical size.
Right. Because, think about, like, if you say dog versus doggy, that Y on the end does way more than just, like, shrink the dog in our minds, right?
Right.
I mean, it kind of does that, but it also adds a layer of, like, affection.
Yes.
And even maybe playfulness.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're much more likely to maybe use that with a child, right?
Yeah, for sure.
When you're talking to a child. And that's just one example. We see diminutives in nicknames. We see them in baby talk. We even see them in how we just shorten long words.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, good point.
I mean, who really says delicatessen when you can just say deli?
Yeah, nobody says delicatessen.
Nobody says delicatessen.
Well, I mean, some people do, but yeah, you're right. It's much more common to say deli. And I think that's a great example of, how diminutives actually, they kind of streamline language. It's not always about cuteness.
Right.
Like, sometimes it's just a practical shortcut.
Totally.
Speaking of shortcuts, you know what country's really good at this?
I bet I know.
Australia.
I was going to say Australian.
Australians, they've mastered the art of the diminutives. I mean, they've even shortened McDonald's to Macca's.
Macca's, yeah. So I feel like they've turned brevity into like a national pastime.
Yeah, exactly. But so anyway, getting back to, the emotional side of things.
Yeah.
One of our sources pointed out that diminutives can be very powerful expressions of endearment.
Yes, I totally agree.
Absolutely. Like, that's why we see them so often in nicknames and pet names.
Oh, yeah. Like honey, sweetie, all those.
Exactly. Honey, sweetie, baby. It's a way of, like, creating this special kind of intimacy through language.
Yeah, but, that intimacy can also be used in less positive ways, right? I mean, one of our sources highlights how diminutives can be used to belittle or condescend. It's like they're trying to shrink someone's status, almost.
Oh, interesting.
Like, it's kind of subtle.
Right. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah.
It's almost like subtle linguistic manipulation.
Oh, that's a fascinating point. Yeah, and it reminds me of, have you ever heard of the Roman emperor, Romulus Augustulus?
I have heard that name. I don't know much about him, though.
So his name itself was a diminutive.
Oh, wow.
And it was this deliberate jab meant to undermine his authority. It's a reminder that, like, even emperors weren't immune to the power of these seemingly small words.
Wow. So
Right.
they're pretty powerful, these little words.
Yeah, they really are. More than we think, I think.
So how are these little words formed? I mean, we've got suffixes like let, et, ling, all those things.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. English relies heavily on those suffixes. Like adding ling to duck. You instantly create duckling.
Right.
Smaller, cuter, more vulnerable.
Yeah, it's like these suffixes are like a linguistic code for shrinking things down.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, diminutives aren't limited to English.
Oh, absolutely not.
I mean, most languages around the world have their own unique way of forming diminutives.
Right.
And that's where things, I think, get even more interesting.
Yeah, definitely. For instance, what are diminutives? The cutest words around source.
Okay.
They talk about how the German language uses the suffix Qwen to create diminutives.
Okay, so like if I wanted to talk about a small house in German,
Right.
I'd add Chen to house and get horse.
Exactly. You got it. But here's the fascinating part. No matter the original gender of the noun,
Okay.
adding Chen automatically makes it neuter.
Wow.
It's almost like a built-in grammar hack.
So helpful for, language learners.
Right, exactly, yeah. But, sometimes it can lead to some tricky situations, especially with words that have, like, a loaded history,
Oh.
For example, Fräulein, meaning little woman. It was once very commonly used to address unmarried women.
Okay, I can see how that could be a little bit tricky.
Yeah. It eventually kind of fell out of favor
Right.
because of its connection with, these kind of patriarchal ideas about women's roles in society.
Right.
It's a reminder that even these, seemingly simple diminutives, they can carry this complex cultural baggage.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, because it's an example of how, language really reflects societal values and how even these, seemingly small words can be caught up in these larger cultural shifts.
Absolutely, yeah. Diminutives are like they're like these tiny little linguistic windows into the heart of a culture.
Yeah.
And speaking of windows,
Okay.
let's take a peek at how another culture has embraced diminutives.
Okay, I like this.
Australia.
Oh, Australia's. I was hoping we'd get back to them.
We have to talk about Australia.
They really are masters of the diminutive, right? Like turning it into an art form.
They really are. They really are. They have this knack for abbreviating everything.
Right.
Barbie for barbecue.
Barbie, yeah.
Mozzie for mosquito.
Oh, yeah, Mozzie.
Even avil for avocado. And oftentimes these diminutives, they carry this humorous, almost like ironic tone.
Yes. It's like they're acknowledging the absurdity of shrinking everything down to these bite-sized words.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like they're in on the joke.
Yeah. They're like, we know this is a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right. So we've covered English, German, the Australian approach to diminutives. What other linguistic surprises await us?
Well, let's hop over to Asia for a moment.
Okay.
Mandarin Chinese. They use a fascinating technique called reduplication
Okay. I don't know what that is.
to form diminutives.
Okay, so reduplication, is that like when we say bai dai instead of just bai?
Yeah, exactly. You got it. So in Mandarin, you might say mau mau for cat
Okay.
to kind of like express endearment. It's like doubling down on the cuteness.
So instead of adding a suffix, they just repeat the word?
Yeah, basically.
That's so simple, but so effective.
Yeah, it's very effective.
I'm starting to see how diverse these diminutive strategies can be.
And, if you think that's creative, Italian takes it a step further.
Okay, tell me more.
Double diminutives. It's like a linguistic nesting doll.
Oh my gosh, double diminutives. I love it. Okay, how did double diminutives work?
Imagine you're describing a very small house,
Okay.
right? In Italian, you start with casa for house.
Okay, casa.
Adding a diminutive suffix gives you casetta for small house.
Okay.
But to really emphasize just how tiny it is, you add another suffix, creating casatina, a very small house.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like they found a way to like miniaturize language itself.
It really is, yeah.
These global examples are really highlighting like the diversity and creativity of diminutive.
And we've only just scratched the surface,
Oh, I'm sure.
There's so much more to uncover about the cultural and psychological nuances of diminutives.
I'm sure there is. Well, I'm definitely hooked. Join us in part 2 as we delve deeper into the fascinating world of diminutives. We'll be exploring their psychological underpinnings, and we'll be examining how they reflect power dynamics in different social contexts.
Should be really interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
Welcome back to our exploration of diminutives.
Yes, back for more.
Last time we kind of dipped our toes into like the linguistic mechanics of these little words.
Yeah.
But what's even more fascinating to me is like how deeply intertwined they are with our psychology and our culture.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's amazing to think that something as simple as adding like a Y or a chen can have such a profound impact on how we perceive things.
Totally. Yeah, it really speaks to the subtle power of language.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that really struck me while looking at these sources is that some cultures just seem way more prone to using diminutives than others.
Oh, yeah, that's a great observation. And I've definitely noticed that with some of my friends who speak, Romance languages like Spanish or Italian.
Right.
They use diminutives all the time. It's
Yeah.
like they're woven into the fabric of their everyday conversations.
Yeah. And that actually ties into this really interesting concept called linguistic relativity,
Okay.
which is the idea that the language we spoke can actually influence the way we think and perceive the world.
That's so interesting.
And it makes you wonder, like, if growing up surrounded by diminutives could actually make you more attuned to, like, cuteness or smallness.
Yeah, like it's not just a cultural preference. There might be a deeper, like, cognitive connection at play.
Right, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, one of the sources mentioned, the psychological effects of diminutives, and I'm kind of curious to explore that a little bit further.
Yeah, well, some psychologists believe that using diminutives can actually tap into these feelings of warmth and comfort and even, like, security.
Okay.
Think about it. We often use diminutives when we're feeling tender or vulnerable, like when talking to babies or pets.
Yeah.
It's almost like we're trying to create a safe space through language.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. It's like we're instinctively using language to like soothe and reassure.
Right.
But of course, as we discussed earlier, diminutives can also be used in, less positive ways.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Using a diminutive to talk down to someone can be incredibly effective, even if it's done subtly.
Right.
It's a way of diminishing their status without being verbally aggressive, you know? It's almost like a linguistic power play.
It's amazing how something so seemingly innocent can be used to assert dominance. And it makes you realize that even, like, the smallest words can have a dark side.
Yeah, it's true. And what's even more unsettling is that we might be doing it unconsciously.
Oh, wow,
You know,
yeah.
we might be sending these subtle messages of power and control without even realizing it.
That's kind of mind-blowing. It makes you wonder how much of our communication is actually unintentional. You know, it's like there's this hidden layer of meaning operating beneath the surface.
It really is. It's a question that linguists and psychologists are still trying to unpack.
Yeah.
But one thing's clear, diminutives are a lot more complex than they might appear at first glance. You know, they're these multifaceted tools that we use to navigate our relationships, to express our emotions, and even to like establish our place in the social hierarchy.
It's true. This deep dive is really making me rethink like my whole relationship with diminutives. I'm starting to see them everywhere, and I'm definitely paying more attention to like how they're being used and what they might reveal about, the speaker's intention.
Like you've unlocked this secret code.
Right.
And the more you pay attention, the more you realize just how much is being communicated through these seemingly simple words.
That's amazing. So, if diminutives are so widespread, I mean, are there any languages that don't use them at all?
Hmm.
I'm trying to imagine a wordy devoid of like kitty cats and teeny tiny things, and it feels strangely sterile.
Yeah, that's a great question. And while diminutives are incredibly common across the linguistic landscape, it's really hard to say for certain whether any languages completely lack them.
Okay.
You know, language is constantly evolving.
Right.
So it's always possible that new research could uncover a language that's just, never embraced the art of the diminutive.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the excitement of linguistics. There's always more to discover, always new mysteries to unravel.
Absolutely. And speaking of uncovering mysteries,
Yes.
in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to trace the evolution of diminutives from their possible origins to their modern usage in the digital age.
Okay, I'm ready to travel through time.
All right, well, buckle up.
Let's go.
Join us for part 3 as we explore the fascinating history of these tiny but mighty words.
Welcome back. We've spent the last 2 parts, really unpacking the mechanics and the psychology of diminutives.
Right.
But now it's time to put on, like, our historian hats
Okay, yeah.
and explore their evolution.
I like it. A little time travel.
Time travel, exactly. So we're going to trace the journey of these little words from, like, their humble beginnings
Right.
to their status now in this ever-changing linguistic landscape we have.
That's right.
So I'm ready. I'm ready for a linguistic time travel adventure. Where do we even begin?
Well, it's a bit like trying to find the first grain of sand on the beach.
Oh, yeah, good point.
Now, diminutives probably just emerged very organically as language itself developed.
Okay.
Maybe mimicking the way that we instinctively kind of adjust our speech when we're talking to children.
Oh, that's a good point.
Right. Like we naturally soften our tone and simplify our words when we're interacting with little ones.
Right, we do.
So it's almost like diminutives are kind of an extension of that innate human tendency to nurture and protect.
Yeah, and over time, those subtle shifts in our speech might have become, like, codified
Right.
into the structure of language, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, evolving into the diminutives we know today.
One thing that has always struck me is, like, how often we see that suffix, like, let in English diminutive.
Oh, yeah.
Booklet, droplet, piglet.
Yeah, yeah.
It feels so quintessentially diminutive.
It does.
Like it's been part of our language forever.
And you're not wrong. That little let has this really fascinating history. Really? Stretching back to, like, Old English and even further to its Proto-Germanic roots.
Wow.
So, I mean, it's amazing to think that this suffix that we use so effortlessly today has been passed down through, countless generations, subtly shaping the English language for centuries.
Wow. It's like these suffixes are these tiny little threads connecting us to the past.
Yeah.
Carrying with them like echoes of these ancient conversations.
I love that. I love that imagery.
Yeah.
And it's not just English, I mean, think about French, a language that's known for its elegance and romanticism.
Yes.
Words like macaron, vignette, even baguette.
Yes.
They all carry this hint of, like, smallness or delicacy. It's almost as if, like, diminutives are woven into the very fabric of French culture.
It makes you wonder if the prevalence of diminutives in a language could actually shape the way its speakers perceive the world. like making them more attuned to beauty and detail and cuteness.
Right. It's a really interesting thought. And it speaks to that broader idea of linguistic relativity, which we touched on a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
The language we speak, it doesn't just reflect our reality, it can actually shape it.
That's powerful. So, I mean, what does the future hold for diminutives? I mean, are they going to continue to evolve, or have we reached, like, peak diminutive?
Well, languages are constantly adapting to social and technological changes.
Right.
So, if history's any guide, diminutives are going to continue to evolve right alongside them. We might even see, new suffixes emerge.
Oh, yeah.
Or existing ones take on, like, new shades of meaning.
Maybe we'll even see, like, a triple diminutive.
A triple diminutive.
Can you imagine a cassette genetina?
It's a mouthful.
I know. But, in all seriousness, it is fascinating to think about how something like social media, for example, might be shaping the evolution of diminutives.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. Online communication tends to be, much more informal and playful.
Right.
And diminutives just seem to thrive in that kind of environment.
Yeah, they do. And they're shorter, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Think about all the abbreviations and slang terms that have emerged online,
Yeah.
Adorbs for adorable.
Or adorbs.
It's totally it's like we're instinctively trying to condense language.
Yeah.
To make it fit into this fast-paced world of the internet.
It's almost as if diminutives are becoming even more diminutive, like shrinking down to fit into tweets and text messages.
Yeah, I like that. Micro diminutives.
Micro diminutive, that's it.
Who knows what the future holds? Maybe we'll start using emojis as diminutives.
Oh.
Or create entirely new suffixes based on internet memes.
That's sure. The possibilities really are endless. So it's exciting to think about the creative ways that language might evolve. And I'm sure diminutives are going to be right there at the forefront, shaping our communication in ways that we can't even imagine yet.
Right, yeah.
One thing's for sure, our fascination with smallness and cuteness and endearment isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's part of, what makes us human.
Yeah. So no matter how technology shapes our language, diminutives will always have this, special place in our hearts and our vocabulary.
Absolutely. It's a reminder that, even the tiniest of words can have a profound impact on how we express ourselves, how we connect with others, and how we make sense of the world.
Well, it seems like we've reached the end of our deep dive into diminutives.
Yeah.
We've covered a lot of ground. The mechanics, the psychology, the cultural nuances, and even the fascinating history of these little words.
I think so, yeah.
But as with any good deep dive, we've only just scratched the surface, right?
That's right.
So we encourage you, the listener, to keep exploring. Keep exploring this wonderful world and language. Keep paying attention to these subtle ways words shape our thoughts and emotions and interactions.
Absolutely.
And the next time you encounter a diminutive, just take a moment to appreciate its power, its history, and its ability to connect us to something bigger than ourselves.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Until next time, happy wordsmithing, everyone.
1,